Hello everybody and welcome back to another not applicable Formula 1 video. I hope that you're well. I hope you enjoyed the US Grand Prix because this 2021 season just keeps on delivering, doesn't it? It's going to go down as an absolutely vintage season of Formula 1, but my goodness me, this US Grand Prix was amazing. Just added to the list of amazing Grand Prix that we've had this year. In fact, I'd maybe go as far as to say that this Grand Prix was the tensest Grand Prix that we've had all season, right at the top of the table between Hamilton and Verstappen. Went down to the last couple of laps and it was looking like they were going to go wheel to wheel for those last couple of laps as well. It was amazing. We had battles throughout the entire field as well, with points changing places what seemed like every single lap, and drama all the way through. And the drama started straight away from lap one, like lights out and away we go. And Lewis Hamilton decided to just go up the inside of Max Verstappen. Got an incredible start for the first time in what feels like a long time. Lewis Hamilton getting away from the line much better than Verstappen. And of course, because he qualified second, actually gets the inside line for the first corner of the Grand Prix. And he put himself right on the apex. Max Verstappen had to try and go around the outside. He tried to push him over to the left-hand side of the track as much as he possibly could. But it was Lewis Hamilton who was able to bully his way through. Verstappen tries to cover, ends up being pushed off of the track by Lewis Hamilton as well. But Lewis just making sure that Max Verstappen knew he was there, knew he was taking the lead of this race. And then suddenly it's completely changed hands. You know, Max Verstappen has gone from pole position, leading this race. What can he do from the front to now he's the underdog, he's in second place, and he's going to have to do something special to get past Lewis Hamilton again. A touch further back, we had Ricciardo, Sainz, and Norris going three abreast into a corner together, and it looked like they were all going to come together, but just about managed to hold on, and Ricciardo actually coming out the better of those drivers. Surprisingly, considering Ricciardo's had a real up and down season. He's had some massive highs and some really bad lows towards the beginning of this season, but managed to keep it together, and a really consistent performance from Ricciardo again. Since the summer break, really has found some pace in this McLaren, and I'm hoping that he can carry that through for the last 5 races as well. Lando Norris, though, the form driver of this sort of first half of the season, even coming back after the summer break, Lando Norris was looking like the driver to beat on the circuit, but not really happened for him in the last couple of races. Obviously, Russia, incredibly disappointing for him, and I don't know, but is it me, or has Lando Norris just lost a little bit of maybe tenacity, lost a bit of pace since Russia? I don't know whether it's just knocked his confidence that tiny little bit. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below, but he just doesn't seem quite on it as much as he was before that Russian Grand Prix. But I'd love to know your thoughts. And obviously, he didn't drop off too far. Ended up just finishing behind his teammate and Bottas and Carlos Sainz as well. So he didn't drop off too far, but was the one out of those Ferraris and McLarens to come last. So interesting there. And we did have contact at turn 1. It just wasn't between the drivers we thought it was going to be between. It ended up being that Stroll and Latifi ended up coming together in turn 1. It wasn't Hamilton and Verstappen like everybody was talking about. Instead, it was Latifi in the Williams, and then pitting as well, coming out and battling Ocon into turn 1. So Latifi just having one of those days where he wanted to have a battle with everybody that he possibly could. And after those first couple of laps, already this Grand Prix was off to an electric start. And then suddenly it became all about tyre strategies. You know, who's going to come in first? After those 2 or 3 laps, where is everybody going to be after this first stop? And fans and teams, myself included, were there with their calculators trying to work out who could go where, what tyres were best at this point, and how this was going to work out. And Max Verstappen was the man who came in first. Incredibly aggressive from Red Bull. They stopped super early for some hard compound tyres, get those mediums off as quickly as they possibly could. And Hamilton had no comeback for this, really. You know, Mercedes could have pitted straight away, but Verstappen already had a really good undercut, so they had to go for a completely different strategy. And I think this was really clever from Red Bull because it put lots of pressure on Hamilton, who was already struggling on those medium compound tyres. Like, Hamilton's medium compound tyre pace was pretty poor, and then Red Bull put on this pressure, and especially because they were going 2v1, it meant that Hamilton went longer on the mediums and had to try and gain time at the end of the race. You know, Red Bull went for, we're going to have track position, you can try and have faster tyres at the end of the race, and we'll see how that goes. Verstappen then also sacrificing his teammate Sergio Perez on the radio, saying like, look, if there's anything that we can do with Checo to try and make Hamilton's race more difficult, can we do it? And this is the first time really that Verstappen's had this opportunity. Usually it's the two Mercedes versus Verstappen, but now we had a flip round. Perez was in the podium positions and managed to finish third as well, considering that he had a really tough race all on his own in third place. His water system stopped working, one of the hottest and hardest races of the year. Therefore, he didn't have much of an effect on Hamilton, but Red Bull tried to use him as a little bit of a pawn in that battle, and it was really intelligent from Max Verstappen to come up with these ideas whilst he was still in the cockpit driving around this track at 100 miles an hour. Then we move on to the midfield, and the midfield, there was continual battles throughout. Like, we're looking at the front of the midfield where we've got McLaren and Ferrari battling for third in the Constructors' Championship. And as I said before, Ricciardo and Sainz were going wheel to wheel as much as they possibly could. And everywhere in this field, there were races going on, apart from Charles Leclerc. And I want to talk about Charles Leclerc because I think his race was a little bit underrated for me. Like, he did incredibly well to just stick in fourth place. Like, a bit of a race where nothing really happened for Charles Leclerc, and therefore we didn't see much of him. But just to have that pace, to keep in front of those McLarens, get himself a lovely little gap as well. And then towards the end of the race was actually catching up with Sergio Perez, mainly because I think Perez knew that he was sort of comfortably third and couldn't get anywhere else. But at the same time, Charles Leclerc, underrated, but a quiet race from him and a really impressive one. Going back to Ricciardo and Sainz, though, who ended up just behind Charles Leclerc, my goodness me, they went wheel to wheel every single time that they could. And actually, Ricciardo and Sainz did have a coming together, with Carlos Sainz taking a little bit of damage on his front wing. And possibly that's what caused Bottas to give that opportunity to get him towards the end of the race. Valtteri Bottas was in and amongst the Ferraris and McLarens and finished up in the middle of the pack as well. So ended up being that Bottas split those Ferraris and McLarens. And as I said, Charles Leclerc having a wonderful race, Ricciardo doing really well to keep Sainz behind him, and then Sainz with that little bit of damage maybe just lost out that tiny bit to Bottas behind him. Bottas had to get through the AlphaTauris though, and Pierre Gasly having another unlucky afternoon for him. His suspension ended up giving out after just a few laps, and he unfortunately didn't finish the race, along with Ocon and Alonso as well, who didn't finish. But just another one of those, like, oh, if only the car would have been there for Gasly, what could he have done? Yuki Tsunoda had a really great race defending from lots and lots of different drivers and showing his quality. What could Gasly have done if he wasn't that little bit unlucky? And then Sebastian Vettel, 18th to 10th. What a drive in that Aston Martin. That Aston Martin has not been quick this season. Like, let's not, sugarcoat this in any way. That Aston Martin has not been great. But when it counts, Vettel found the pace he needed, got himself up into 10th, took the last of those points positions, and needs to take a bow because he went on a different strategy and it massively paid off for him. He was the last of those point scorers there in 10th place. And that is massive for Aston Martin. I mean, like, it's not going to change where they finish in the Constructors' Championship, but at least they're now actually fighting for points again. It feels like a while since they've actually been fighting in and amongst it when they haven't been fighting amongst themselves. Then we have Giovinazzi, Stroll, Raikkonen, Russell. You can add Alonso into that mix as well. They were all over each other because, honestly, you'd think they were battling for the lead. Alonso, in particular, and Raikkonen were just animals out there, especially down into turn one. They were just fighting everything, giving tooth and nail to each other, and it was lovely to see those two. It was like 2005 all over again, with those two battling it out at the front. And yeah, it was wonderful to see that Alpine and Alfa Romeo go toe-to-toe. Alonso and Giovinazzi, of course, having a little bit of a battle and finding their way to sort of have a little chat to the stewards throughout the race as well, because Alonso really has a vendetta against these stewards, and I absolutely love it. Giovinazzi and him sort of taking over places, but overtaking off the track, on the track. Was it on the track? Was it off the track? I'd love to know your opinion. Would you have given that place back to Giovinazzi or not? Because it was very close, and he kind of took the place when he was on the track, but obviously gained the advantage when he was off the track. It was very 50-50, and obviously Alonso having the overtake championship in mind, possibly, because he ended up getting double the overtakes on Giovinazzi there. And then everything sort of crescendoed in those last few laps. It came to fruition that everything came together for Lewis Hamilton, and it was looking like he was going to take the victory in this Grand Prix. You know, he was gaining and gaining. Verstappen was holding on to as much grip on those hard compound tyres as he possibly could. 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go, 3 laps to go. The pressure, the anxiety that I felt throughout that race was absolutely amazing, and it was so exciting. Hamilton closing in every single lap, Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher getting in the way of Verstappen to try and slow him down, but Verstappen was able to just hold on. And I think mainly because Hamilton and Verstappen, in that first sector, Verstappen was just able to eke out a little bit of pace from absolutely nowhere, and he did take the victory, and Hamilton never got to actually get within that DRS zone, and that's what this kind of drive from Max Verstappen is championship worthy. This is an absolutely phenomenal drive from him. Puts him top of the championship by 12 points now. Lewis Hamilton just behind. Valtteri Bottas maintains 3rd place. Sergio Perez into 4th now, 1 point ahead of the off-form Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc overtakes his teammate Carlos Sainz as well. Daniel Ricciardo gaining on those Ferraris as much as he possibly can, and Gasly there just holding on to 9th place after Alonso and Ocon also didn't finish the Grand Prix. Vettel comes in 12th, Stroll 13th, Tsunoda a couple of points, possibly having a little look at Stroll over these last 5 races. Russell maintains that 15th, 16th Latifi, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Schumacher, and of course Mazepin rounding out our 20 drivers so far. Constructors' Championship, again, not too much has changed apart from Ferrari, just 3.5 points behind McLaren. It is going to go all the way to the wire between those teams, and I cannot wait for it. Overall, though, what an incredible Grand Prix. And the USA, the American fans, it was something special. Like, the F1 could definitely boom in America very, very soon, with the possibility of there being 3 or even 4 races in America in the calendar in the next few years. I think we are on American fever. It was amazing to see that many fans, and they were absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to all of you guys who sort of joined the stream. I know lots of you are American as well, and it was lovely to have you. Thank you so much for 4,000 subscribers. It just absolutely blows my mind that this channel continues to grow. The goal is 5K by Christmas, and what an incredible Christmas present that would be. But that is way in the future. Next up, we have Mexico. Sergio Perez, could he get a win on home soil? You know, he's got a couple of podiums in a row now. Can he build up to a win on home soil? I really hope so. Links to everything down in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.